Metaphor is an imaginative leap from the known into the unknown. So, for example, I'm feeling brighter today is a way to use something known from the familiar world, a brighter or a darker light, to convey something of my feeling, my mood, my experience, which is a kind of intangible, mysterious thing. But metaphor allows us to picture that, imagine that, and convey that to other people. Metaphors are a bit like candle wax, up close to the flame of immediate lived experience. They have a fluidity. They can move and adapt to changing circumstances. And that's what I call living metaphor. However, away from the flame of that immediate experience, our metaphorical wax can quickly congeal and harden, and our use of metaphor, similarly, can become habitual, stale, cliched, and we become trapped within those ways of seeing, being, and doing. And that can restrict us, it can stop us from adapting, from growing. So the task, if you like, is to look out for these dead metaphors and breathe some life back into them again. And on the workshop, Metaphors from the Edge of Chaos, that's exactly what we are going to explore in our lives, in our work, and also in therapeutic language and theory. Freud was the metaphorical father of modern psychotherapy, and a lot of the metaphors that he conceived were taken from the familiar and known world of science and steam engines, the cutting edge technology of his day. So from the hydrodynamics of the steam engine, we have the psychodynamics of the mind. So a conception of mind is composed like a machine of parts with forces and pressures, with tension build up and release, with resistances and movements. And that's spread out into the culture now, and it's very easy to hear all around us people talking of themselves as machines. So when we talk about being full up or run down or a bit fragmented or a little rusty today, or my engine's just not running today, there's loads of ways people do that. They're talking about themselves metaphorically as if they're machines. And for me, the problem is that through overuse and perhaps a lack of alternative metaphors, rather than thinking of ourselves, speaking of ourselves as if machines, we come to think that we are machines, and technology comes to capture our imagination and our very sense of self. So what I'm going to do on the seminar, the workshop, is introduce some alternative metaphors, not from mechanical systems, but from the natural world, from ecological systems. Because I think it's there that we can find metaphors that better match the unruly, unpredictable, wild events and processes that go on in our relationships, in our development, in our healing, which don't often follow predictable, linear, mechanical paradigms. So I'm going to look to nature, I'm going to look to the beatings of the human heart, I'm going to look to the crashing of a wave on a beach, and the flocking of starlings in the dawn sky as metaphors for mind. You know Russian dolls, and how when you take apart the bigger doll, inside there's a slightly smaller doll, and inside that doll there's another doll, and they each have the same pattern, but just on different scales. That's called a fractal pattern. And nature has this fractal geometry. If you look around, you can see it in snails' shells, in the crow's feet in the corner of your eye if you're a certain age. Trees grow in a fractal pattern. Broccoli florets are the same fractal pattern as the larger floret from which they came, as also cauliflower, onions. The lungs have a fractal pattern, the nervous system, the brain. All around there are these fractal patterns in the natural world. And one of the interesting things for me about therapy theory is the developments where some people are taking this fractal idea and applying it to psyche, so the metaphor of a fractal psyche. And we're going to explore that on the workshop to see how, when you drill down into it in all different ways on different scales, you can see the same kind of behavior, the same kind of interactional style, relational style, the same kind of interests and concerns happening in little micro moments between therapist and client, or on a bigger scale across months or years, even into the person's early history. You can see the same pattern, the same dynamic, and it's a lovely way to work that avoids the kind of analytical reductionism of thinking of the mind as a machine that we can kind of lift the lid on and analyze the little parts and tease it all out, which creates kind of inner-outer splits, self-world splits. Fractal psyche is a lovely kind of holistic way to work with keeping the whole in mind. The title of the workshop comes from complexity theory and the idea of an edge of chaos, which is a transitional zone that exists between stagnation and stability on the one hand and complete randomness and chaos on the other. In between is the edge of chaos, which is a zone of turbulence and maximum possibility for creative change. Like, for example, when you boil the kettle, and as the water gets to 100 degrees, it starts to bubble, it starts to wobble around, become turbulent, and then small, tiny little inputs of energy suddenly create a change, and you have steam and the water's boiling. So we're going to take that as a metaphor for therapeutic change. So rather than an idea of linear change, a mechanical model of change, we're going to use the idea of an edge of chaos to explore those moments when we've softened up our habitual way of being and seeing. We're feeling more fluid, but it's a little bit edgy, a little bit scary. We're worried about tipping over into chaos. We want to hold it together, we want to go back. How do we help people hang out in this edge of chaos sufficiently such that they then move to a new way of being, such that change happens? That's one of the things that we want to get into on the workshop. Okay, to camera. Metaphors from the edge of chaos. Our workshop at the Psychosynthesis Trust, 2nd and 3rd of March. Check out the blurb. You can book online. It'd be lovely to see you there. Okay, bye-bye.